Hi, tonight what I wanted to do was just a really quick video to help some of you explain the overall pattern to why the eastern United States has seen the flood watches and at times the warnings when heavy rain has warranted over the area. The pattern is quite simple, but it does compare to previous years. But what this will different from previous years is I don't expect the significant or historical flooding, at least in the region that we're looking at and living in, from, let's say, a very close comparison pattern year of 2006. I'm going to explain that. Before I do, I want to show you why the moisture has decided to pick our area and move into it. And what I'll do here is draw just a few indices, show you where the pressures are over this current map of late Monday night, and what we can expect through midweek and the end of the week. So first of all, what really began to pinwheel all of this moisture has been first our low pressure, or an area of upper level low, over the Ohio Valley. Now what that's done is it's come out of Canada, a very rare movement of low pressure for midsummer, because this is something that would come out of the winter time. This is what would bring our Clipper systems. It's what would cause an Arctic air mass, specifically December, January, February. But again, this is something different, and we are in June, so rather the colder air, we've seen our humid and moist air mass. And for those of you that don't know, a low pressure has a counterclockwise moisture flow. So obviously it's moving in this direction, but the airflow is coming off in a counterclockwise motion, so it's obviously picking up the Gulf moisture, it's picking up the Atlantic moisture, and where is this all going? Well, it's going to the east end of the low pressure, which would include the Tennessee Valley, the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and that's why we've seen our rain so far at the start of Monday. Now, what's prevented this from going offshore has been our second area of pressure, and that has been our high pressure. Now, different from the low pressure, high pressure has a clockwise flow, so it has a moisture airflow of this. So while the low pressure's airflow is moving from the Gulf to the Atlantic, it's also doubling its moisture count by also hooking up with the high pressure's airflow of a counterclockwise motion, and all of this is being steered into our region. That's why we've had our flood watches. That's why when heavy rain has come over an area, we've seen those warnings. But the question is, does this stay over the same area all week? And if it does, it's going to create a lot of flooding. However, I'm not anticipating that. I think the high pressure, the low pressure, they're both fluctuating in the amount of air extent and intensity, ranging from strength of much stronger to weaker, and that's what's going to cause the stem of moisture to fluctuate west to east, and where some areas might lag more moisture and more rainfall, causing flooding, while others will not. And I will animate exactly this forecast model to show you what exactly happens here. So right now we're looking at obviously a map of what we saw Monday. That was most of the moisture coming into Florida, a lot of it the eastern Carolinas, Delaware, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania earlier Monday morning, all the way up into the eastern Massachusetts, Connecticut areas. Now what will happen come to midweek is what I will animate for you here. Now what I want you to do is I want you to watch, because this area here that we highlight, and excuse me, I'm sorry for moving that, what we highlight here is pretty much our, as I've said, our moisture stem. So watch really where this moves, and also watch the high pressure and where this moves as the moisture stem moves, because there's a correlation between the two. And this is where the moisture begins to go from, say, Tuesday and ending Thursday or Friday. So let's just go through that very quickly here and show you. So here we are, we're approaching Tuesday. And now you see that moisture stem continues on the coastline. There's a few pockets, obviously, into a little more interior. But really, as you continue, it just kind of lags there along the coastal plains, the coast. There's not much change. The only change we see here is a high pressure that's beginning to strengthen off the shoreline. Now as we continue, watch how this begins to recede further westward. And that's due to this high pressure strengthening and also moving westward. That's also due to this low pressure losing the battle because of the high that's stronger. And as we continue, that moisture stem continues to get pushed further westward, and further westward. And that actually clears the basins of the Delaware, New Jersey, from that significant, heavy, and consistent rain. And so that's why I'm thinking here that, yeah, Tuesday might be a little wet. Wednesday, even maybe early Wednesday, might be a little wet. But come closing into later Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, if this high pressure off the Atlantic begins to continue that westward progression, so will that moisture. And so will that moisture stem, and that will give us the clearing that we need to perhaps save us from any of that consistent, significant rainfall. Now, we have had an above average rainfall of June. So, obviously, whatever Tuesday brings, obviously, whatever Wednesday brings to the table is still worth watching. But the way this movement is going with this ridge and the western progression of this low pressure, there's a good chance that we might dry out early a day or two than once what the models were inputting past this weekend. So that's the good news. But we will continue to watch and see where this goes. But as I said, right now we have the moisture stem over the coastal waters, and throughout Tuesday that's going to back westward. It's going to cause more rain into the area. It's where flood watches and warnings will probably be out again. And then by Wednesday, late Wednesday, it starts to recede westward due to that, obviously, that strengthening high in the Atlantic. And it really begins to take over throughout or beginning the weekend, drying things out. I don't think we're going to see sunny skies and beautiful weather. It's still going to be humid. It's still going to be damp. You obviously have an airflow from the south. It's taking into consideration the Atlantic and Gulf moisture. And, those who live obviously further north, who have never experienced a subtropical air mass, you're going to feel it because there's just that much of a strong and subtle airflow moving from south to north. But overall, because of that high pressure that's indicating here off the Atlantic seems to be in control, or at least winning the battle over the low pressure, that would cause most of the rain that does enter the mid-Atlantic to be much scattered in ways. With scattered rain, it's more isolated. It causes flash flooding and not so much widespread flooding. I have found that widespread flooding is a very large culprit to large stem river flooding. And I find this to be more isolated. It's more due to creeks and streams. But obviously, if creeks and streams flood, you got to watch the larger stem waters. But I don't think this is going to be a major thing. I think, obviously, if we can make it through Tuesday and Wednesday without flooding, we should do fine. And that's where I'm sticking with right now. So please check in for more, and I will update you as best as I can. Thanks for watching.